Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's a video series today, presented by WFPK Independent Louisville at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. So this is a special episode today, as we took a camera, and my cameraman, Tyler Franklin, standing behind me right now, shaking his head like this. We went down to Nashville to Marathon Music Works and actually got to talk face-to-face with the Claypool Lennon Delirium. It's Les Claypool of Primus, Ono Lennon. They've got a brand new record, it's their second one, called South of Reality. Now, it follows up that first one. When they did it a few years ago, we didn't know if it was a one-off, so we sort of get to talking about that and the songwriting process that goes into it this time around, but also some pretty heavy topics, like the environments. We geeked out about black holes, because we just saw one for the first time around the time of this interview, and we let Sean talk about his weird science facts that he gets all about. And Julian Assange, he's got some opinions on Julian Assange this in here. And speaking of Ono Lennon, he's been doing his mom's albums, reissuing them. He's in charge of all of that. So that's in discussion, as well as covering his dad's famous music for the first time in his career. He's always shied away from it, but Les talked him into it, and that's a fun part of the interview as well. We also talked to Les about what he was about to do at Jazz Fest, which this interview was taped right before Jazz Fest happened, so sort of the improv world of Les Claypool is discussed here as well. Have fun with this one. It's Kyle Meredith with the Claypool Lennon Delirium.
Guys,
Howdy.
welcome back. Album number 2.
Correct.
Yeah, South of Reality. It makes it real for us at this point.
It's getting real, dude.
Yeah,
Semi-real.
I don't know, because all our favorite artists get together all the time, for kind of one-offs, and you never know if it's going to happen again. And here it is. Did you all go into this one with it feeling different? Did it have a different kind of with more intent than, hey, let's have fun? Does it happen like that?
I think we were just we had a better flow this time because we'd already made a record, so we kind of had a flow going.
The honeymoon was over. We sort of got to know each other.
Sleeping in separate
quirks
bedrooms,
Who was going to twiddle what knob and whatnot, our work ethic.
Yeah. But as far as the songwriting itself, though, I guess that's what, do you figure out what works and what doesn't, and you're like, okay, all right, now we can size this out? Because you all have so much history of your own writing behind you to kind of
so
bring
much
into
history.
it.
The weight of history. I think we actually have a pretty good flow with songwriting. It's not like we write a bunch of stuff we don't like or something. I think we started the band because we sort of shared a lot of the same tastes or proclivities, and so we had a good instinct for what we wanted to do, I think, with the band. It happened quickly, and the inspiration moves fast, doesn't it?
Yes, the perspiration moves fast.
The perspiration is salty.
I think the difference between the two records is, we prepared a little more for this one. The first one, it was like the honeymoon. We were trying to see who was going to do what, and he ended up on the drums, which was a new thing for me on the first record, and I sat at the console, and this one we just knew exactly where we were going to go, and we had hung out in both Manhattan and upstate New York for a couple of weeks, just jamming on acoustic guitars and eating lots of food and drinking wine and writing down or recording little notes on our riffs and whatnot on our phones. And then when we came back
Little
together,
nuggets.
we had some more fleshed out nuggets to drop on each other.
Yeah,
So.
it's interesting when you hear it too, because what?
It sounded dropping fleshy nuggets on each other. That's what we were doing.
That's my shiner right there. That's the boy.
Because when you said, the cool thing about listening to this record, or maybe both the records too, is I can't figure out what's a jam and what's maybe written specifically to sound like something, because I don't know,
It's a fine line.
There's the fine line between jam and prog, and I think this album is that fine line. It's
and just stepping on your guitar. It's a fine line. Where does that stop and begin?
It's pram. It's jog. I don't know. Most things, and I can't speak for everybody, but most riffs do come from jamming or noodling or whatever you want to call it. You just stumble across something interesting. Very rarely do I sit down and go, I'm going to write something that sounds like this. It just, something comes out and it sticks.
Yeah.
But we do have sections. Les is also good at sort of, especially on during the live show, designating the improv sections. So they're always parenthetical, and they're bookended by composition. So it's not like anything ever goes off the rails. There's always a way to
it goes
bring
off
it
the
back.
rails. It's just we know how to go off the rails with style.
Well,
In
yeah,
the good way. There's the good falling off the rails.
and I hear that a lot in your past. And I don't know how much you've had. Obviously, with Ghost of a Saber-Toothed Tiger, there was some psychedelic in there, but how much of what you're talking about was new to you coming into this? Like, how much further did you have to go?
Well, it was exciting for me. What was new joining a band with Les is that there's a culture on the stage of taking longer improvised sections and also taking more solos and stuff, which is just something I hadn't really
And
participated
talking a lot
in
of
that
shit
much.
in between songs.
Yeah, we have good banter as well. But no, so that
At
was
least we think it's good banter.
that was fun. I mean, I've done some improvising, but not as much as I do now with Les, and it's taught me a lot. It's made my playing better, and it's been fun learning how to be comfortable flying by the seat of your pants, because he's good at being like, all right, now, he gives you a look, we'll improvise for a while, but then we'll bring it back just as quickly, which is I think that's what's fun, is having the tools to kind of let go, but you know how to bring it back. So it's been fun learning how to improvise within limits.
And Les, I mean, you've got, beyond Primus, you do a lot of different collaborations, I guess, and to be the band leader in that way, I mean, do you find it different with different artists, the way you kind of conduct in the way Sean's talking about?
Do you use the baton with the other boys?
Yeah, I use a sword in this band. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I tend to like to. I'm that guy. I like to drive. When I get in a car, I hate it when my manager's driving because he's a horrible driver. But I don't. I like to drive. I drive my tour bus. I like to drive. It's just maybe I'm a control freak. I don't know what it is. But I feel like even with my position as the bass player, I lock with the drums and I feel like I can move the thing along. But of course, the dynamic of the tune is often dictated by the soloist and how the solo's going and whatnot. But I'll help nudge it along or try and follow what's going on. But it also depends. When you're in a band like Oysterhead with someone like Stewart, I mean, Stewart likes to drive, and you just kind of chase him around. Mm-hmm. And it's a glorious, wonderful thing. It's just a different dynamic. So,
bit of trust falling going on in with your musical partner.
I think it's like anything else. I mean, I keep going back to music as a conversation, and there's times when you're in a conversation and someone is leading the conversation for a while, and then you lead the conversation for a while, and then you toss the ball around, whatever metaphor you want to use. Mm-hmm. And
flesh nuggets.
Flesh nuggets. And it's very similar with music. As long as you have enough vocabulary to sort of stay in the conversation, there's a lot of interesting things can happen. And I tend to play with guys that have a pretty strong musical vocabulary.
I like that this is the Flesh Nuggets interview, by the way.
Yeah, Flesh Nuggets.
For all time.
It's going to be a new thing at McDonald's.
I want to hit on the title, because South of Reality sounds like a place where both of you may have spent your time, but it also sounds like a place where all of us have been forced to spend our time in the past few years.
Exactly.
Am I hitting close with either of those?
Yeah.
Both of those?
I think it can be. It's all open to interpretation. I think both those interpretations are relative.
Yeah. With, let's say, the current state of things politically, environmentally, all of that, has that changed the way this recent administration changed the way that you've written topical in any way, either of you?
I think we're really influenced by current affairs, but I mean, not any more than we're influenced by, stories and things that we read about, from other times. I think we're just, Les has a really good imagination, so he often comes up with completely original narratives, whereas I tend to read a lot of stuff, and sometimes I try to interpret reality into the lyrics, but I think it depends. But there's a lot of the modern world in the record, I would say. But I don't know if it's overt or if it's intentional necessarily.
There's elements, of course, and I think you are influenced by what's going on either right in front of you or peripherally. I mean, I think that goes without saying.
Well, I guess has this one, that's what I mean, with however you've done it in the past, have you noticed that it's been different because things, I guess, seem escalated
They do to me. They do to
Yeah.
a lot of artists. A lot of artists I've noticed have gone kind of inside with the anxiety, isolation, themes like that. It's not something I get on this record. This record, especially when you take a song like Fleas, you know, that ends the record. I mean, that's pretty right there, kind of in your face, what you might be talking about with the environments.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wrote the lyrics to that song and taught, or most of them, tossed them at Sean and said, "Oh yeah, I have this tune about the notion of parasitic man and blah 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 blah." And he says, "Oh yeah, we're like fleas on the back of a dog. The Earth, Mother Nature's just trying to shake us off." And I was like, "There's the chorus.
song.
You know, there's the chorus right there." So you know, or even the opening song, "Little Fishes." And I've gotten a little flack recently because of one of the lines.
I know, that was
in
surprising.
Which line is
song.
this?
There's a line in the song that says, "Gone are the days when your brand of genitalia would determine where to piss." And so
I had to say that.
I guess there's been some folks that have thought I'm transphobic, which I'm not. I'm just making an observation, as if I was saying gone are the days when the color of your skin determined where you sat in a cafe or whatever. You know, it's just an observation. It's not
Things
a
are
pro or a
changing.
con. It's just the times they are a-changing. Somebody else wrote a song that said that a while ago. So
Seems like everyone's.
but there
waiting
are
to be
things like that
offended.
on this record.
There
Pointing
are,
out the
there
notion
Are,
that-
yeah, I mean, I love how the record ends with fleas because it kind of feels, it feels like
It's always good to end with fleas.
the world might be, you know, or there might be some kind of catastrophe coming, but it's also lighthearted and fun. So you're like having a party as the world spins out of control or something. It's a nice feeling, as opposed to getting all sad about it.
Well, I'll read the line too, because I mean the way you've written, it's always almost been like observational and sometimes quite literal when we think you're not being literal when you're metaphorically. But you know, they say Mother Earth is dying. I don't see it that way, and she spits out massive hurricanes to wash us all away. I mean, it does take the twist in the way we all talk about it, like, oh, we're all, but
Well, when all is said and done, we are the parasites on the entity here, on the host, and I think this rock's going to be around a lot longer than we are.
Yeah, I like that idea. People often worry about saving the planet, but the planet probably doesn't need saving. It's, you know, it's our species or other species that might be eliminated through our, you know, carelessness. But ultimately, the planet's going to outlive us. I do like that. I like remembering that. I think that's a cool part of that song.
But then again, a giant spaceship may come down and save us all.
maybe we can be hopeful in that.
Yes.
If this is the nice crossover.
It's a cookbook.
If George Clinton chooses to tour again,
Well, I don't see that's happening. The band will, just not George Clinton.
maybe.
Yeah. This is a nice crossover with the two of your interests because, and I've seen some of the shows online and everything where you'll throw it to him for some science facts. I mean, this is the big.
That's a
interest.
high pressure moment. I
Yeah.
gotta do. I gotta remember to do my research backstage.
That's all you do is do research. That's like his
I
life.
know, I know.
I mean, of course, we're looking at pictures of the black hole for the first time. That had to be
That was amazing.
a big day for you.
It was a big day for everybody, I think. It was amazing because, I mean, the idea of imaging a black hole is unbelievable considering that we haven't directly imaged any exoplanets. So you realize that the thing must be
a black hole.
an exoplanet.
Imagine if we can.
Exoplanet sounds like like a Rush song. or something. But
Well, Cygnus X1
the fact
is
that we
black hole.
imaged
What are you
it with
talking
light means that it's so big. That's what's amazing. I mean, it's just it's bigger than our solar system. So, you know, it's hard to get a picture of a planet, but you can get a picture of a black hole that's bigger than our solar system, and that's mind-blowing to me. It's crazy. It's actually daunting to think there are pits of nothing that are that big.
about? And it's a selfie.
And it's a selfie.
It looked like a donut to me. It looked like a
Like a
big
donut.
glazed donut.
I felt bad not to be dismissive of that historical moment, but when I saw it, I thought, oh, that's what we thought it looked like, right? Like that's,
It is exactly what Einstein predicted it would look like. I mean, the relativity predicted with the models and the computers. It's unbelievably close.
Yeah. While we're on the subject of the news, and I'll get back to the music in a second, I did want to bring up something because hot button topic was lately was Julian Assange, and you kind of came on Twitter. You kind of came not to his rescue, but kind of pro what he's.
Well, I just feel like people villainized him a lot. And I understand not being happy with what he did, but I just feel like in the big scheme of things, people like Snowden and Assange are brave in that they put their personal comfort on the line to to live by principles of, freedom of the press. And I think that's an important part of a democratic society, free speech, freedom of the press. So, I think we live in an age where a lot of stuff is getting censored in a sort of insidious way, whether it's social media or even relationships between media companies and the White House, or lack of a relationship between a media company and the White House. But there still seems to be levels of filtration that people like Snowden and Assange are brave enough to stand up to. So I just, I think it's cool, but a lot of my friends disagree with me, so it's fine. But I think it's cool that somebody would pretty much dedicate their lives to the principle of freedom of press, which is cool because, he does the same thing. He vets his publications, he considers security issues, and he publishes things that people give him. So, technically that's legal. I mean, that's what a journalist is supposed to do. You protect your sources and you publish the information and you consider the downside. And I don't feel like he's that different from other journalists, other than he's been vilified, and he's done things that have upset people, But
That's what I wonder. It's why do I agree with all of those things, but I don't like him for some reason? It's the way it's
a lot of my
painted,
friends don't like him.
Well, Sean and I have talked about this quite a bit because we get a couple booze drinks in us, and for me, yes, I
Now I'm
respect
sweating.
and admire the notion of honesty in presenting this information, but from where I stand, the timing couldn't have been worse. If this information was available, why didn't it come out earlier when we could have? It was very damaging to the left at the wrong time, I feel.
Right.
So.
Sure, I just don't think he should go to jail for it, and I don't think he should have been living as a refugee in the Ecuadorian embassy. It just seems a bit extreme, that's all. Yeah. And theoretically, he could be up for, capital punishment if he committed treason under American court, which I don't think would ever happen. But still, even the threat of that is, daunting, considering he's simply publishing information. But I agree, the timing was intense of the Hillary stuff. But,
Well,
I still stand by it on principle. I stand by it on principle, basically.
I'm good. You guys keep going.
yeah.
I have no seg to tie this back to the music, but I'm going to get back there just the same.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
I saw the picture in the paper. I thought Fred Durst got arrested.
I know, that was
I was
funny.
like, whoa, what's
I went
going
on the
on?
bus and the newspaper article of Assange had a little Fred Durst sign under it, which is funny because he does look like maybe a retired Durst.
I can use that actually as a seg. Fred Durst, Woodstock 99, Primus, Woodstock 94, all of them are celebrating big anniversaries this year as they're planning the new one.
Are they really?
Yeah, the Woodstock 19 is happening, and the 50th anniversary. It's the 50th anniversary, and you did one of them. And I've
Yes.
talked to a few artists that have done it, kind of getting their take of what that was like for them and how they see that image, because it became something else 5 years later, and now it's being touted as something else again, I guess.
I haven't really been paying any attention. Who's on it? They didn't ask us. So.
That's been a good question. Some people, and then some people drop off, and
Yeah. We did the 94, which was the first
sure, reboots.
Yeah, reboot. There you
Anniversary,
go.
right, yeah.
That was before the word reboot. But and it was actually unbelievable. It was one of the best. Sometimes no matter how well you rehearsed you are, you have an off night, and no matter how crappy you are, you can have a good night, or rusty you are, I should say. And Primus was rusty as hell because I was out touring with somebody else, and we ended up coming together that night on stage and just had one of the best shows we've ever had. So it was a good one for us.
That's a fun one to watch, too.
I still have mud in my cabinet from when they were hucking the mud up on the stage.
The Woodstock of mud. No, yeah, it's coming back around again. We'll see how it goes. And as far as the rest of the year, let's see, Sean, you've been doing the issues for your mom.
Yeah.
Are those still ongoing, or are you done with those, or more?
Yeah,
on
no,
the way?
we have some pending releases. I think we just came out with a wedding album. So I helped remaster all of my mom's LPs, and we included the ones she did with Dad, like Life of Lions and Two Virgins and Wedding Album. So those were really hard actually to do because the packaging is pretty complex on those, especially the Wedding Album. So we just came out with that, and people seem to like it.
Yeah.
I liked it. To me, I consider it just a gift to my mom or something because, I don't know what to get her on Christmas. So I thought remastering her albums and putting them out, recreating them lovingly was like a nice gift to her. And she really did like it, to be honest. Like usually if you give her a Christmas present, it's hard to know. But with the LPs, I gave her a box of all the remastered, reprinted ones. She was like, oh my gosh. So it was sweet. She was happy.
It's something that's so personal to you, but we all benefited from that as well.
Yes. It was very personal. It was a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
It felt good.
Yeah. And that's got to be an interesting thing for you to kind of go back through that part of the history right there, because as I've seen you say in other interviews, those were literally the makings of you in those albums, And
Yeah, exactly. It was really interesting to go back and listen to it all in like a good system in a studio because, they're probably not the records that I go home and put on for fun to listen to. Especially, I don't know, especially the wedding album. It's a lot of gurgling, and it's a lot of gurgling. And
You're the one who's heard it all.
Yeah,
every
but
second of it.
it's sweet. The way I look at it is, it's just two people who've really obviously fallen in love, and they're having so much fun. They may be having too much fun, but they're having a lot of fun, and it's sweet because that is sort of from whence I come. So
You're part of the gurgling.
I'm one of those gurgles for sure.
I won't take this down that road, by the way, but
Go down the road.
I'm not going to go down the road.
Everybody wants that road.
We've done that a little bit before. I don't need to go down the road. What I will say is there is that moment in the show you all chose to cover "Tomorrow Never Knows." Of all the songs you could have done, of all the bands you could have done, I guess.
Well, he didn't want to do any of my dad's songs.
We tried them, but they were too hard. No, I think we did that one because it's easy or something, but it's kind of makes sense with the
And it's a
Delirium.
pretty decent song.
It's
it's a
decent
great
song.
song.
It's
But
not too
it's
shabby
only
on the
one
spectrum
chord,
of
so,
songs.
Yeah.
That way we don't have to remember too many things. I still get it wrong though sometimes. But yeah, it's just one chord, and it kind of fit in with the Delirium stuff. Les was the one who encouraged me to do it because I'm sometimes wary of covering my dad's music. Not because I don't love it. I play it at home all the time, and that's how I learned to write songs. But Les was kind of like, it's time. We got to do one song. I was like, all right. I think that was the only one I was willing to work to
Well,
try.
I used to cover that song with the Frog Brigade. The thing I've noticed in being around the, not just him, but just the notion of the shadow of the Beatles thing or whatever, is there is that element that comes to the shows, and I really spotted it when we went and saw his buddy James McCartney at an event. There's that element of there's those individuals that come to the show looking to see the DNA, you know what I mean? And they've already got this preconceived notion or this expectation or whatever. And so I understand now, which I didn't in the beginning as much, why Sean didn't necessarily want to do Bungalow Bill, which I was pushing for.
Oh yeah, he was pushing for that.
Because it sort of continues to reinforce that notion of those people that are coming that are gonna, no matter what, when you're the offspring of somebody who has left that huge of a footprint, it's tough to get out from under that. And so I think Sean's done a great job of doing that throughout his career with the Ghost and with the Grand Royal stuff and Chibamato and all that whatnot, and now with us, he's really sticking his thumbprint out there. And I told him when we first got together, I was surprised how great of a guitar player he was, and I said, "Hey, dude, I'm going to get you on the cover of Guitar Player magazine." Not that I knew anybody guitar player.
He really did say that, and it did happen.
By what we created, I wanted to show the world that he's a motherfucker of a guitar player. And
Thanks, Les.
so lo and behold, he was on the cover of Guitar Player magazine.
It's pretty
a couple months
funny.
ago.
He manifested that. It's an argument for.
And better than that, he was in Modern
Mysticism.
Drummer as.
That's also. I wasn't on the
I
cover.
didn't even
of
get
Modern
Modern
Drummer. I know, that was hilarious. I did get it in Modern Drummer. Yeah, that was a dream come true. Yeah,
so-
honestly, the reason I stay, I mean, not to bring it back to that because I don't need to, but the reason I don't cover dad's music so much is more just, it doesn't have any deep, there's no deep reason. It's really just because it feels pressureful. I feel like I better do a good job. It's just like, it's too much pressure on it. I could never, it's hard to live up to how good those recordings are. So, I avoid it because it's just too much work. But Tomorrow Never Knows I can handle because it's just that one chord over and over again. So I could do that one.
That's fun.
We're doing Beautiful Boy tonight.
Oh, God. We're going to do like the bebop version.
That's the things that only you can say.
Yeah.
Les, yourself, later on this year, the Bastard Jazz. Is that what's up next for you?
In a couple weeks, doing a little Bastard Jazz. Yes.
What is that? I mean, other than maybe what it sounds like.
It's basically me getting together with some individuals and just walking on stage and improving. I did it once for this comedy festival in San Francisco, and it was really great. It was Mike Dillon, and Skerritt and Eric Harlan and myself. And this time it's myself, Mike Dillon, Skerritt, and Stan Moore, who I've never performed with. I've never performed with Stan. I've sat in with Galactic and whatnot, but I'm really excited to do this thing down at Jazz Fest. It's Jazz Fest.
It's a Jazz Fest, yeah.
Yeah, and so
Jazz,
I'm
baby.
not a jazz guy, but I'm the bastard element of jazz. How's that? So.
And you walk in with nothing and just wait for it to...
Well, one of the greatest experiences I've ever had was we did this thing called Bucket of Bernie Brains, Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains years ago. And it was just showing up at Bonnaroo with Buckethead, Brain, and Bernie Worrell. And I literally walked on stage and said into the mic, I'm about to play the first note of my life with the fabulous Bernie Worrell. And I went, wah, and we went, wah, and we just played in front of 8,000 people or whatever it was. And it was amazing. It was magic, and
It's awesome.
it was. Sometimes you got to do that stuff. Kick off some dust and some cobwebs, and stand on the edge of disaster and see what happens. As long as you got some good comrades with you, I feel pretty safe.
I said not a lot of artists, feel like they can take risks these days, and both of you guys. I mean, the full compliments. I'm a fan, and that's the reason why a lot of us are fans.
Thank you.
Is to watch you do crazy, weird, fun things over and over and
It's
over.
the danger.
We live on the edge, baby.
Yeah. Sean Ono Lennon, Les Claypool, the Claypool Lennon Delirium.
Indeed.
Get that right. South of Reality, the new record. Thank you both for doing this. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Why, sure.
All right.
Thanks again to the Claypool Lennon Delirium, Les Claypool, Sean Ono Lennon. Again, the new record is called South of Reality. Hey, before you get out of here, don't forget, this is a podcast. You're seeing this. That means you're checking us out on YouTube. There is a subscribe button somewhere around. This is where people point and go, subscribe below. But you can also do the podcast. We've got iTunes and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite podcasts from. It's Spotify as well. You can follow along there as well. WFPK.org. That's where I am every Monday through Thursday from noon to 3 Eastern. Consequence of Sound has your music and film news. Of course, you can find me at Twitter at Kyle Meredith and Facebook /Kyle Meredith. And that does it for another edition of Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.